Elliot Granger slammed his palm on the edge of his glass desk, sending a stack of client briefs fluttering to the floor like startled birds. The sound cracked through the executive suite, and even though I'd been bracing for it, I still flinched. "You humiliated me, Camille." His face flushed, deep crimson jaw clenched as he pointed at me like I was a virus. "You made me look like a joke in front of the board." I held the award tighter to my chest. The TechVision Trailblazer plaque was still warm from the auditorium lights, its gold edge catching the recessed lighting overhead. I was 34, fresh off leading our Dallas innovation team through its most successful year. Elliot was 52 and had expected his name to be called, not mine. "Are you firing me for winning?" My voice cracked. I already knew the answer. "You've always had a problem with authority," he snapped. "Clean out your desk." He turned his back, already done with me. The silence felt jagged. I could hear the printer down the hall and the buzz of fluorescent light overhead. My heart thundered. "You'll regret this," I said, my voice low but certain. He walked me out through the open office floor, staying just close enough to imply I might snatch a stapler or burn the place down. His voice rang fake cheerful. Sometimes the wrong attitude ruins the right talent. Every head popped up and quickly ducked again. Bryce from product mouthed, "What the hell?" when Elliot wasn't looking. Marissa from HR blinked fast like she might cry. I'd worked alongside them for nearly 4 years. Inside the cardboard box, my cactus, my favorite pen, and a photo of my sister and me on a beach in Santa Barbara. The elevator doors dinged open. As they slid shut, I saw Elliot's smug grin, arms folded like he'd just won. He hadn't. The parking garage was icy. I sat in my Prius for 20 minutes staring at the plaque beside me. Trailblazer, it read. I traced the lettering with my finger and smiled. He didn't know it yet, but that award didn't ruin me. It marked the start of his fall. The same award Elliot had talked about since the day I joined. For 5 years, he brought it up in strategy meetings, town halls, even coffee breaks. The TechVision Trailblazer was more than a trophy to him, it was his legacy. Now, my name was engraved on it. Camille Renaud, Trailblazer in digital strategy. I whispered it aloud inside my Prius. 3 hours ago, I got fired for winning the award my boss spent 5 years chasing. It felt like both a confession and a declaration. The garage lights blinked overhead, humming above my windshield. I reached for the plaque in the passenger seat and smiled, not out of joy, but recognition. This wasn't an ending. It was the beginning. Let me tell you how we got here. 6 months ago, I was still Elliot's fixer, the late-night ghostwriter. It was past 9:30 on a Tuesday. The office was nearly empty, just the janitors and me. Elliot's presentation for Hoffman Industries was a disaster. Rambling logic, broken data sources, and mismatched visuals. I rebuilt the entire deck from scratch slides, speaker notes, and timing cues. At 9:47 p.m., I sent it. Attached is the clean version. Use the note on slide 12, it'll sell them. The next morning, he strolled past my desk without a word. He picked up the printed version and walked into the glass conference room like he'd pulled an all-nighter. I watched him through the glass, delivering my strategy, my pitch. The client leaned in, clearly impressed. I waited for a thank you. It never came. When Hoffman returned a few months later, the results were in my campaign had boosted their engagement by 340%. Mr. Hoffman walked in glowing. "This campaign saved us," he said, shaking Elliot's hand. The audience targeting brilliant. I sat across from them, heart racing, ready for acknowledgement. "She's been the driving force," Elliot said, finally gesturing toward me. "Camille here saw something no one else did." It sounded generous, but he didn't mean the credit. He meant ownership. That was the moment it hit me. Elliot didn't want recognition for the team. He wanted control over me. And I'd just taken the one thing he couldn't fake, the award with my name on it. Camille executed well, but the strategic vision that came from years of experience, Elliot said smoothly, like he was narrating a documentary about himself. I smiled, nodding politely, though my nails dug crescents into the soft cover of my notebook. Mr. Hoffman paused, glancing between us, but Elliot had already moved on, talking future budgets, ignoring the burn spreading across my cheeks. Later, near the break room, Kate from design leaned in close. "He's scared of you," she whispered, eyes darting. "Everyone knows you're better. Except him." I should have taken it as a warning. The email came that Thursday morning at 10:23 a.m. I was reviewing engagement metrics for our Texas auto campaign when the subject line stopped me. Cold congratulations. Nomination for Trailblazer in digital strategy. My fingers trembled as I opened it. It had to be a mistake, but no. There it was, in black and white. "Dear Ms. Renault, you've been nominated for this year's TechVision Trailblazer Award for your groundbreaking work in digital integration strategies." 3 clients had submitted case studies, charts, testimonials, results, all pointing to my work, my name. My coffee sat untouched as I reread the email. Over and over. The award Elliot had obsessed over since before I was hired. Now had my name on the nomination. And then footsteps. Heavy. Purposeful. I looked up. Elliot was storming toward my cubicle, face flushed, jaw locked. "You!" He barked loud enough to silence half the floor. After that, everything shifted. I was suddenly excluded from strategy calls I once led. Emails went out with my name conveniently missing. Files I created required new admin clearance to access. Even my permissions were revoked one by one, quiet sabotage, masked as policy. At Friday's team lunch, Elliot chuckled mid-conversation and pulled out his phone. "Hope you don't get too famous for us, Camille," he said loud enough to quiet the table. "Wouldn't want success to go to your head." People laughed politely. I didn't. The chill didn't come from the air conditioning. It came from Elliot's stare. Flat. Calculated. Kate caught my eye and gave me a small, helpless shrug. And then Elliot added with a grin that didn't reach his eyes, "We're all proud of our little superstar here." The word little stung more than I expected. I walked back to my desk with one thought pulsing in my mind. If you believe stories like this deserve to be heard, and you're curious where Camille's journey leads next, don't forget to subscribe and join us for the next chapter. This isn't office drama anymore. This is war. The TechVision Awards ceremony was held at the Grand Plaza Hotel in downtown Dallas. I'd found a sleek black dress on sale and rehearsed my speech in the mirror, careful not to let hope turn into expectation. Nominees came from powerhouse agencies across the country. I didn't think I had a real shot, but when they called my name, my legs nearly gave out. The spotlight was blinding, the applause thunderous, but all I could see was Elliot, seated front row, clapping with the mechanical stiffness of someone barely containing a scream. I thanked the clients who nominated me, my team and mentors who had shaped my work. In my nerves, I forgot to mention Elliot. From the stage, I saw the fury tighten in his jaw, the grimace, the whisper to the exec beside him. I'd find out later what he said. "She won't be here much longer." Backstage, my heart still buzzing. I was posing for a final photo when he appeared beside me. The crowd had thinned. The energy was shifting. He grabbed my arm just above the elbow, firm, controlling. To outsiders, it looked like a friendly gesture, but his fingers left a bruise. "Enjoy tonight," he said, soft enough to stay off the record. "Tomorrow's a different story." I ripped my arm away, the dam finally breaking. "Don't touch me," I snapped loud enough that 3 heads turned. Elliot just smirked, adjusted his tie, and disappeared into the reception like nothing happened. But I stood there, trembling, angry, burning. The next morning, the sky hung low and gray. I barely slept. His words had looped all night. At 8:52 a.m., I walked into the office. His assistant met me at the door. "Mr. Granger wants to see you." Inside his glass-walled corner office, 2 senior execs waited, Victoria from HR and James from Ops. Neither looked at me. Elliot didn't offer a seat. "You've become a disruption to team morale," he said flatly, like a verdict already typed. The trophy still sat on my desk, but he was already erasing me. "Your little publicity stunt last night was the final straw." The color drained from my face. "For doing my job well?" I asked. "You failed to acknowledge the team," Elliot said. Victoria from HR added, "You made it sound like you did it all alone." Her voice was flat, like she was reading from a memo. That's not what happened, I said, barely holding my composure. You're out, Elliot cut in. Final. Cold. Rain tapped steadily against the floor-to-ceiling windows as silence filled the room. I glanced at Victoria and James. Nothing. Just guilt in their downcast eyes. I stood tall, heart-pounding, and walked out without looking back. I wouldn't let Elliot see me cry. That night, I sat at my kitchen table in East Dallas, laptop open, staring at job boards. Every listing blurred together. Most required 5 years of experience I had, but couldn't prove without references. Not with Elliot rewriting the story. My phone buzzed nonstop. Messages flooded in, some genuine congratulations, others laced with pity. Heard what happened. You'll bounce back. But no offers. No openings. Word spread fast in this industry, and Elliot's version spreading faster than the truth. I glanced at the awards still sitting on my counter. Camille Renault. The crystal caught the kitchen light cool under my fingers. They couldn't take this, no matter what story Elliot sold. Then, ping. A new email from Michael Thompson, CEO of Pinnacle Marketing Solutions. Subject, lunch. I have a proposal. I clicked it open, pulse quickening. He'd seen the ceremony. He wanted to talk. The next day, we met at a quiet bistro tucked behind a bookstore downtown, far from the corporate towers where whispers flew like wildfire. We've been watching your work for months, he said over a Caesar salad. The Hoffman campaign, brilliant, seamless. I blinked. You? Knew it was mine? He smiled. Everyone does. Elliot hasn't had an original pitch since 2017. His best ideas started after you joined the team. I stared, stunned. For the first time in weeks, something inside me stirred. Hope. We've wanted someone like you for years, Michael said, setting down his fork. We're expanding our digital division, and we need a creative director who understands how to build campaigns that work. The offer was everything I dreamed of: creative autonomy, my own team, and a salary 30% higher than what Elliot ever paid me. I rested my spoon gently and looked him in the eye. Let's do it, I said. Then, surprising even myself, I added, but I'm doing this my way. Starting at Pinnacle felt like crossing into a parallel universe, one where good work wasn't threatened, but valued. My new office had a large window overlooking downtown Dallas. A quiet espresso machine hummed beside a shelf of industry awards I hadn't won yet, but would. And the door, it closed. Michael introduced me in meetings as our new creative director, not the girl behind the decks. I kept things quiet at first. I met with clients, listened more than I spoke, and made a point of understanding what hadn't worked for them before. No pitching, no promises, just presence. Word spread naturally through client dinners, agency whispers, and LinkedIn threads. Within weeks, I started hearing, "You're the reason we called Pinnacle." It felt different. I wasn't staying late to patch egos or rewrite disasters. I was staying late because I couldn't wait to see what we built next. The team's small, but sharp. They brought me ideas, not excuses. And when I challenged them, they didn't flinch. They built better. 3 weeks and my assistant knocked on the glass. "Mr. Thompson wants to see you," she said, smiling. Turns out Morrison Entertainment, one of the region's most promising film distributors, had requested a strategy meeting. With me. They'd worked with Elliot's firm for 2 years. Frustrated. Unimpressed. "We need something bold," their director said. "The same old methods just don't work anymore." I proposed a layered strategy, micro-targeted influencer content, smart social timing, and integrated audience engagement built around launch windows. 2 weeks later, the account was ours. $200K annually. Not a record breaker, but it made noise. That night, my team and I clinked glasses in the conference room. Our first real win. The first of many. Michael brought champagne and toasted each of us by name. For once, credit felt like sunlight instead of a spotlight. Real. Earned. Meanwhile, according to Kate, who still worked under Elliot, he'd lost it when he found out Morrison Entertainment had jumped ship. Stormed into the boardroom, slammed his laptop shut, and cracked the screen. One board member reportedly muttered, "She's taking your clients." Within 6 weeks, the industry started noticing. Marketing Pulse ran a feature on fresh leadership and digital strategy and quoted my approach to microsegmentation. AdCurrent included me in an article on the future of integrated campaigns. Clients and colleagues began tagging me in LinkedIn posts, praising the results we delivered. My follower count tripled. Richard's name, absent. While conversations swirled about innovation, his agency's output looked increasingly stale. Campaigns that once dazzled now felt recycled and irrelevant. Invitations began to arrive. Panels, webinars, creative roundtables. Nothing major yet, but enough to establish my name in rooms where it mattered. Then, one Tuesday morning, I was reviewing a case study layout when Kate's name lit up my screen. Text. Richard saw the article in Marketing Pulse, threw his mug at the wall, yelled, "Who the hell is feeding this hype?" Thought you'd appreciate the update. I couldn't stop smiling, because there was no hype machine. The work was real, and it was working. Richard's paranoia, though, was reportedly at an all-time high. Former colleagues reached out in whispers. He was micromanaging every project, demanding to vet client emails and creative drafts himself. The office air had turned toxic. Sandra from Strategy resigned without notice. Her LinkedIn post cited irreconcilable differences in leadership vision. 2 junior account managers transferred internally just to escape the chaos. Tom from Creative Services messaged me privately. The environment's challenging. People are walking on eggshells. Got any advice for those of us weighing our next move? I replied carefully. Supportive, but cautious. I didn't want to make things harder for anyone still trapped inside Elliot's spiral. A week later, Kate forwarded an internal memo. Subject Q3 Executive Review, Richard Granger. Her note, 3 words, chickens, coming, home. I read it twice, then poured another cup of coffee. The storm was finally circling him now. Word of the board review spread quickly. According to industry chatter and whispers from ex-colleagues, the session had been brutal. Senior execs pressed Elliot with hard questions about client churn, employee morale, and declining campaign performance. One board member reportedly asked bluntly, "Why are clients leaving for Camille Renault?" That must have made Elliot's blood pressure detonate. His response, deflect and deny. Market trends, he said. Clients get dazzled by the next shiny thing. They'll come back when it fades. But the board wasn't buying it. They'd done the research and the timeline spoke for itself. Clients weren't just leaving. They were escaping. Campaign quality had dipped. Retention had cratered. And all of it traced back to one pivot point: my departure. 3 days later, I received an unexpected email from Patricia Wells, a board member at Elliot's firm. Subject: lunch. Strictly confidential. I agreed, curious. We met at a quiet French bistro across town. She didn't waste time. "He's unraveling," she said, folding her napkin. No names needed. 3 weeks later, an audit was triggered quietly. At first sparked by a complaint from Hoffman Industries about vague billing and underperforming results. But it didn't stay quiet for long. What started as a review of one account became a full excavation. Campaigns Elliot had claimed were wildly successful had failed basic benchmarks. Some projects billed to clients had no documentation. Hours were logged for work that hadn't been done. Most damning of all, credit. Multiple award entries and new business decks listed Elliot as the creative lead. But the source files, the slide metadata, the email threads, the revision logs told a different story. Mine. My name was everywhere. Strategy maps, brand narratives, creative pitches, even his flagship pitch to Morrison pulled. Word for word from a deck I wrote at 11:48 p.m., 6 months before he fired me. The audit team followed the trail all the way back. Elliot's version of reality was collapsing. He told the board it was sabotage, claimed bitter ex-employees were trying to smear him. But according to Kate, now actively job hunting, he'd started pacing the halls, muttering to his assistant, "Find out who's behind this." That Tuesday morning in March, an invitation appeared in my inbox. Subject: Industry Leadership Summit. Speaker confirmation. They wanted me on the panel. Topic: Innovating Client Partnerships. I smiled. Time to speak freely. The invitation listed a dozen agency executives from across the country. I accepted immediately. It was my first major panel, moderated by the editor of Marketing Excellence, and attended by hundreds of industry leaders, clients, and strategists. I prepared relentlessly. My talking points focused on genuine client relationships, the power of listening, and why collaboration, not control, drives real creative success. When the moderator asked about leadership, I didn't hold back. Great leaders don't fear talent, they hire it, support it, and let it grow. If your team's success threatens you, you've already failed as a leader. The audience went still, then erupted in quiet murmurs and flying thumbs. Within hours, the quote had made its way to LinkedIn, then Twitter, then agency Slack channels across the country. 2 days later, Patricia Wells reposted it with a note, "If only more leadership teams thought like this." No name attached, but everyone knew. Then, Thursday night, 7th, 30 p.m., my phone rang. Caller ID Elliot Granger. I nearly let it go to voicemail, but curiosity answered for me. His voice was gravel, shaky. "Camille, we need to talk." Pause. "We can work together again. Name your price." I agreed to meet him the next morning. Neutral spot, a downtown cafe with glass walls and too loud jazz. He was already there, shoulders hunched, white-knuckling his cup, sweat on his forehead despite the breeze outside. "I made a mistake," he said as I sat down. "You were one of the best." He spoke of partnerships, joint initiatives, rebuilding. I leaned back, calm, watching him crumble. "You fired me," I said, steady as stone. "For doing my job too well." He blinked. "This isn't over." Then he slammed his cup so hard the ceramic cracked, coffee splashing across the table, but it was over. We both knew it. The audit results leaked the following Monday. I had just walked into my office with a hot latte and my laptop bag slung over my shoulder. My assistant met me at the door holding out a printout with wide eyes. The headline was "Brutal Internal Audit Uncovers Fraud False Attribution at Granger Agency." The fallout had begun, and I wasn't hiding anymore. Elliot Granger steps down after client exodus and internal audit fallout. The headline ran across every major marketing outlet. The article was devastating, detailing everything: the billing discrepancies, plummeting morale, and wave of senior resignations. Within hours, Ad Current Marketing Pulse and Creative Ledger picked it up, each adding sharp commentary on toxic leadership and outdated agency culture. Elliot's name quickly became shorthand for everything wrong with ego-driven leadership, taking credit for others' work, ignoring innovation, and treating rising talent like threats. Meanwhile, my name was everywhere too, but for the opposite reasons. Former clients and colleagues went on record about my strategic contributions, integrity, and collaborative leadership. The story had transformed into a cautionary tale and a celebration of what happens when talent rises anyway. By Wednesday, 3 different industry publications had reached out for interviews. That afternoon, another email landed in my inbox, subject keynote invitation. Industry Awards Gala. I smiled. Same venue, the Grand Plaza Hotel. The place where 8 months earlier I'd stood frozen under a spotlight, clutching a crystal plaque. This time, I was walking in with purpose. I spent weeks preparing my keynote, focusing on ethical leadership, the power of teams, and the obligation we all have to build better creative cultures. My team gathered in my suite before the event, helping me practice transitions and polishing my tone. This wasn't like before. I wasn't standing alone anymore. I had people beside me who wanted me to shine. Straightening my blazer in the mirror, I whispered to myself, "This time, I speak for me." My assistant peeked in. "Guess who RSVP'd?" I raised an eyebrow. "Elliot." A flicker of nerves passed, but it didn't stay. He could attend. But this time, I was the one on the stage. The ballroom held over 500 people, agency leaders, influencers, clients. As I stepped into the lights, I couldn't see individual faces, but I knew he was out there somewhere. I began. Last year, I stood on this stage, clutching an award and questioning whether I belonged. Tonight, I stand here knowing that real leadership isn't about credit, it's about courage, clarity, and lifting others up. And they listened, really listened. It's about lifting people up, I said, creating spaces where talent thrives and having the confidence to celebrate others' success. The room was quiet, engaged, heads nodded. I caught people tapping notes into phones, and as my eyes adjusted to the lights, I saw him, Elliot, sitting stiffly near the back, pale, unreadable. I continued. When we lead from fear and insecurity, we don't just harm people. We damage teams, client trust, and the entire creative industry. Midway through, I noticed movement in the crowd. Elliot was gathering his things, his jaw-clenched posture rigid. The cameras caught him slipping out the side aisle head down. I ended to warm, sustained applause. For the first time in years, I felt completely free. Backstage, my team greeted me with champagne and grins. Attendees came up throughout the evening, some in tears sharing their own stories of toxic leadership burnout and quiet survival. A journalist from Agency Leader Weekly approached with a notepad. "How did you rise so quickly after what happened?" I thought for a second. "I stopped helping the wrong people win," I said. "Sometimes the best thing for your career is being forced to find better people." As we discussed team culture and industry shifts, my phone buzzed. A message from Patricia Wells Elliott. Submitted his resignation this afternoon. The board accepted it immediately. Thought you should know? I showed Michael. He lifted his glass with a quiet nod. No gloating, no smugness. We didn't toast Elliot's downfall. That wasn't the point. We toasted what we were building instead. The evening ended with laughter, new project ideas, and conversations that reminded me why I love this work. The next morning, I sat in my office placing 2 awards side by side. The original Trailblazer Award, which once marked the start of my exile, and the Leadership Excellence Award, which symbolized the world I helped create after. 2 pieces of crystal, 2 different chapters. A soft knock on the door pulled me from my thoughts. It was Emma, one of our junior strategists. She hesitated, then asked, "Don't you feel bad for him? Losing everything like that?" I looked out at the Dallas skyline where Elliot was probably somewhere clearing out his corner office. I took a breath. Elliot was probably somewhere clearing out his office meeting with attorneys or figuring out how to rebuild whatever came next. "No," I said finally, meeting Emma's eyes. "I don't feel bad." I paused, then added, "I feel bad that it took this long for him to face the consequences of treating good people so badly. But I don't feel bad that his actions finally caught up with him." I nodded toward the awards on my shelf, then toward the glass wall where my team was gathered in the conference room, debating campaign strategy, laughing, creating something real. "The best revenge," I said, smiling not bitterly, but fully, "isn't destroying someone else. It's doing better." Emma sat quietly for a moment, taking that in. Then she smiled back, stood and returned to her project. I turned to my screen. 3 open campaign drafts blinked back at me, each for clients who'd chosen to work with us. Not just for results, but for trust. For the way we did business. And I was excited. Not for revenge, not for redemption, but for what we were building next. Outside my window, the Dallas skyline shimmered in the morning light. The energy of the city felt electric, humming with the same momentum I felt inside. This wasn't a comeback. This was a beginning. A beginning I wouldn't have chosen back when I was still trying to earn approval from someone who would never give it. But now, looking around at the team, the culture, the clients, and the impact, there was no version of the past I'd trade for this. I didn't just reclaim my career. I rebuilt it on terms that aligned with who I really am. I leaned back in my chair, took a sip of coffee, and smiled. Finally, after everything, the award, the fallout, the exit, the spotlight, I was exactly where I belonged. And this time, no one could take it away from me. If you've ever been underestimated, dismissed, or punished for doing your job too well, then you already know part of my story. I didn't share this journey to dwell on the downfall of someone like Elliot. I shared it because I know what it feels like to wonder if speaking up will cost you everything, and then realize staying silent already is. So if anything in this story resonated, leave a comment. Tell me when you chose to rise. Tell me what you're still surviving. I see you, and I want others to see you too. And here's my advice. Stop helping the wrong people win. You deserve to work where your talent is nurtured, not feared. You deserve leadership that builds, not breaks. And if they fire you for being excellent, that's not rejection, it's redirection. So hit that subscribe button if you're ready for more stories about strength, resilience, and quiet power. Share this with someone who needs reminding that they are not the problem broken systems are. And above all, keep building something better. Because success that's rooted in integrity, that's the kind that lasts. Camille,